Well, welcome to Behind the Streams, STEAM Discovery with Netflix. I just want to briefly introduce myself and welcome you all in. My name is Adrienne Prusinski. I am the founder and program director for StarTech Global Academy, which is a nonprofit dedicated to STEM diversity. We're the ones bringing you Behind the Streams, STEAM Discovery with Netflix. Now, Behind the Streams is a series of free workshops for teens to discover STEAM education and Netflix career pathways, plus the resources to get you there. Now you may be wondering, what exactly is STEAM? Well, STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. STEM with the addition of arts. Now, when we say arts here, we mean the ways in which technology and STEM are used in the arts. For example, this presentation was made on a digital design app. Part of what we hope you'll find interesting today is all the unique ways that STEAM is used in different types of careers. Now, before we dive in, I want to cover some Zoom etiquette just real quick. If you look at the bottom left corner of the Zoom window, you should see a microphone with a line through it. It looks like the microphone on the screen. It means you're muted. We'd like everybody to go ahead and stay muted until the Q&A part, but you are welcome to use the chat feature. That icon is also on the screen. It's at the bottom of your Zoom window. If you're virtual, go ahead and click on that icon right now. It'll pop up. You can say hi in the chat. That's great. And then finally, for your view on Zoom, on the top right of your window is a view icon. There's a side-by-side speaker view, which helps you best see who's speaking. And then there's the standard view, which I believe I have circled here, and it shows the participant cameras on the top with the presentation, and then the gallery view side-by-side, which shows a presentation with the cameras on the side. Last but not least, just a friendly reminder that we are recording the sessions and we're translating them into different languages, so that the community members who couldn't come can still get the awesome info. So if you know someone that couldn't show up, we will be posting our recordings online and you can let them know. So if you're at the location, you're hopefully getting some pizza soon and enjoying your pizza. You also may know that we have gift cards for the participants who signed up and finished the exit survey. So we're going to email those gift cards to you. So we do need your email address. If you've already signed up, we've got your email, you're good to go. And you just do the exit survey at the end, we'll match the emails, you can move forward with a gift card. If not, don't worry. You can enter your email in the chat box if you're virtual. If you're not, just that exit survey will capture your email and we'll still get you those gift cards. So for those of you who don't win, all participants can pick up swag from the location. Again, if there's more than 15 students, please just leave your name with Stephanie and we will help you get that swag. Now for our agenda, we've already covered the intro and the Zoom etiquette. For other topics are why STEAM from our workshop leads, a Netflix STEAM story with our special guest speaker, and then a Q&A panel with our special guest speaker and our workshop leads. We will then finish with a very brief exit survey I mentioned, which helps us improve the workshops. It finds out if you'd like to be matched with a STEAM mentor, which is awesome. And it also helps us keep these workshops free. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to my workshop leads, Zeba, Kira, and Inovi. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrienne. Hi, everyone. My name is Zeba Khanchi. I am lead intern for this workshop. I am from Seattle, Washington. I went to Tai High School. My dream is to become a doctor. I got interested in STEM when I was doing volunteering at hospital during my high school. The left picture is me doing volunteering at hospital. The right picture is me presenting at T-Mobile. In my free time, I like to cook and binge watch Netflix, specifically K-dramas nowadays. With that, I will pass it over to Kiara.
Thank you, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Kira. I am the IT intern for these workshops. I am currently a computer science student at Olympic College. So I'm doing my associates there and then transferring to a four-year university to finish up my computer science degree. And one day I want to become a math professor because I feel like we need more of them. Hi, welcome in. Come on in. Yeah, so that's my STEAM story. When I am not studying, I am hanging out with my husky puppy Lucy here. We always go to the beach and go on road trips. She's my old travel buddy. So yeah, that is me. I'll pass it over to Inovi.
Hello,
We can't hear Novi very
Only a junior. I started getting into like my STEAM career when I was about 10 years old. I did like a STEAM workshop, kind of like you guys are doing at Boeing. And then from there, when I went to Garfield High School, I took a dual enrollment program, which is where you could take college while you're in high school. And that's where I kind of got my interest in psychology, and they helped me flourish that. So Running Start's a great program if you're ever interested. And then also I was in the Y Scholars program, who also helped me with resources, and they were mentors. The College Success Foundation was another site where I can have like a mentor. And both of the College Success and Y Scholars helped me with scholarships to pay for college in my career. And so one day I hope to be a child psychologist. So at the bottom corner here, I have a child who has their wheels turning. And outside of school, I like to dance. So here's a picture of me with my dance team. Also, I just want to know, if you would like pizza, I will call up these tables one by one. So you can disperse pizza to you guys. Awesome. I'll turn it back to Zeva. Thank you.
Thank you, Novi. So now you guys might be wondering why STEAM while settling down on your seats and also eating pizza. So there are hundreds of different STEAM careers. We will explore some of them today. There are also many different pathways to a career in STEAM. You can choose the one that fits you best. Something to note is that in the US, STEAM jobs are growing at twice the rate of non-STEAM jobs. So there will be jobs waiting for you in STEAM when you finish with your schooling. Also, in the US, the average pay for the STEAM job is twice as much as the average pay for non-STEAM jobs. So now let's play a little game. When you hear STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, what careers come to your mind? Let's see what careers we can guess. You can either use the chat box to enter your guesses if you're virtual, or if you're in person, share your guesses with our in-person workshop leads. Adrian said computer programmer, Kiara said scientist. Great guesses. Keep it going, guys. No more guesses? In-person people, do you have any other guesses? Engineer. Ooh. Astronaut. Howard said astronaut. Any more guesses? STEM. Does anything else comes to your guys' mind? Technology, engineering, arts. No more guesses? Artist. Thank you, Kiara. Okay. So many great guesses. Thank you for whoever shared, and thank you everyone for listening. One thing to note is that STEAM is diverse. It's not just scientists and engineers. It's so much more. This top image shows a man and a woman in a biotech lab, very science. This bottom image shows a man and a woman in a music studio, and they are using DJ mixing equipment. These are both STEAM careers. Now, there are hundreds of STEAM careers today. We just wanted to try to highlight a range of careers to get your wheels turning on what's possible. Now, here are some science-based careers related to health and wellness: dentistry, nursing, pharmacy, and medicine, lab technician, counseling and psychology, physical therapy, fitness. Other science pathways include the nature and life sciences. ecology and land stewardship, zoologist, forestry, environmentalism, veterinarian, technology and business, game developer, website or app developer, IT systems and security manager, development operations and business operations, digital marketing. Now media and arts, graphic designer, multimedia artist, digital animator, multimedia creative director, entertainment and audiovisual, director of photography, videographer, visual effects technician, audio engineer. Another cool thing about STEAM is there are multiple pathways to get to the career you want. Virtually all of the careers require a high school diploma or GED. So that's step one. With 1 or 2 years of education or training after high school, you will usually end up with a certificate or associate's degree. 4 years gets you a bachelor's degree, 6 to 12 years gets you a master's or doctoral degree. Now, 12 years might seem like a long time, but that's time going to pass anyway. Where do you want to be in 12 years? What do you want to be doing? How do you want to be spending your time? The key is to figure out what you're interested in and see what careers there are. Then start down that path. And hey, don't worry about how to pay for your education. There are always scholarships, grants, and student loans that will help you cover the cost. At the end of the workshop, we will connect you with a resource guide that will help with tutoring, scholarships, and more. Another great thing about STEAM is the jobs pays pretty darn well. We like to call it a family wage, meaning you can live on it and support a family. Each of those career fields has a great way to get into it, with a shorter path, medium path, or a longer path. Usually the longer path pays more, but not always. There are some 2-year paths like information security or business operation that pays as much as other 6 to 12-year paths. We are talking $25 to $45 an hour. So it really depends on the specific career. Some key takeaways. Firstly, there are many diverse careers in STEAM, all the way from engineers at Boeing or SpaceX to life sciences and multimedia artists. Secondly, multiple pathways to each career field. On average, careers in STEAM require 1 year to 12 years, but time is going to pass anyway. So where do you want to be? Third, if you put it all together, it's really about finding something you are interested in, choosing a pathway, and let that lead you to a career in STEAM. Lastly, it's important to remember that any job also has ongoing training and education, so you can always switch pathways or careers or you change your mind. Now, I want to show you a resource guide I mentioned. We are creating a guide for each workshop location with a list of local resources, including advising, tutoring, computer labs, study spaces, free Wi-Fi, food, workshop, and so much more. You can find it via this link at the bottom of the page. I will also put down the link for our virtual students in the chat box. If you ever forget it, you can always just go to steamdiscoveryproject.org and the resource guide links will be there in the menu. Here is an example of what the resource guide looks like. You can click on the location of your choice. For those of you at Rainier Beach Community Center, you would click the South Shore link to find resources near you. And it will take you to a customized list of support resources curated just for you. Now, we have our Netflix guest speaker before we will move on to our Q&A panel and your chance to win more gift certificates. Our guest speaker today is Howard Ekundio, Director of Engineering and in Web UI at Netflix. Now I will pass it over to Howard.
Thank you so much, Ziba. Let me share my screen. Does that look okay for folks?
Yes.
Great. Hey folks, so I'm really excited for the time that we have today. I put together a presentation that just shares more about myself and my background, and also kind of demos a lot of the really cool stuff that I get to work on with my team. And I think it ties in really well with what we were just discussing with kind of the mixture of engineering, art, science, et cetera, into a passion that I've had for a pretty long time now, and that I hope that I'm fortunate to continue living out. So, my name is Howard Ekundayo. It's funny, as a side tangent, I sometimes struggle to pronounce my own last name because I actually took my wife's surname when we got married, and we've only been married for 2.5 years. So I think Ziba actually did a better job than I did pronouncing it. But yeah, Howard Ekundayo, I'm a engineering director at Netflix, and we can get more into like what that actually means. But before we jump into that, I'd like to just kind of share a little bit about myself. And for those that know me personally, they know that I'm extremely transparent. I'm an open book. There's really no taboo kind of topics or questions with me. And that's actually something that I have to watch out for, and can sometimes be a little too much for folks that I meet. But I mentioned that because during the Q&A, I'd love for you all to just kind of ask me anything, right? And don't worry about it being inappropriate or something that shouldn't be asked. I'll answer if I can. But yeah, who's this guy? I had a pretty humble socioeconomic background and upbringing. I'll be straightforward and share. It wasn't great. It wasn't fun, actually. I mean, there are a couple of moments, silver linings that I'm thankful for and that I cherish, but a lot of it was just a lot of tough times. So I'm the oldest of 5 siblings. I have 4 siblings, and mostly raised by my mother, single parent. A lot of kind of divorces, a lot of kind of tough times with trying to get access to some of the more basic kind of resources that a lot of young folks need to do well. So I smiled when Ziba was highlighting the centers that kind of have access to Wi-Fi and tutoring and after school programs, because that's a lot of stuff that I think had I had access to would have been really cool and kind of expedited some of my learning and growth. But yeah, food stamps, Section 8 housing. We often didn't have a car, so I walked a lot. I started working. Fun fact, I started paying taxes when I was 14. That's the youngest in the state of California. You can get a job legally. So I was a janitor to help my family kind of pay the bills and get food. I also worked at Albertsons, which isn't a super popular store in the Bay Area, but there's still some of those open, I think, in Southern California. But great grocery store. I was a bagger there for much of my high school career. So, I just kind of share this all with you all because some of this may resonate with some of you. This may be a part of your story currently now or in the past. And I just want to highlight that it doesn't have to be a limitation to who you aspire to be in the future. I identify as a Christian and very kind of blessed and grateful to God that I've been blessed to kind of be who I am today. But regardless of where you are on the religious spectrum or not, I just want folks to kind of see the delta in my life, and hopefully it's inspiring and kind of can serve as an example of the delta at minimum that you could have in your own life. Some of those positive silver lining moments of my childhood, though, I'd love to jump into. So these were a lot of the interests that I had growing up. Again, I didn't have much, and so each of these pictures were big deals in my life. So I don't even know where to start. Maybe I'll start with George Michael, this guy with the guitar in the lower right-hand corner. My mother loved George Michael, like loved and adored this man. It's annoying that I've memorized his entire greatest hits, back-to-back CDs, but I have. It's my go-to for karaoke. And so I inadvertently, whether I love it or hate it, am a huge George Michael fan. Same thing with Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Kirk Franklin, Joe Sample was the gentleman in the lower right-hand corner, Eminem during my teenage rebellious years. This music was just critical. We used to have a DVD of music videos of these folks, and because we didn't have cable, I would just watch these DVDs over and over again. So Smooth Criminal, the extended version, is probably my favorite music video of all these artists. You know, video games was also a big part of my my childhood, because some of the neighborhoods I grew up in weren't necessarily great to, let's say, mingle with some of the kids on the block. And so my grandmother would often just try to keep me in the house, either reading, doing homework, or playing video games. And so Pokemon was a big part of my upbringing, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Metal Gear Solid. Pokemon actually is still a big part of my life. I could show you all some things right now. Maybe I will during Q&A, it'll blow your mind. But I'm kind of a child adult in that way. But yeah, these are the things that just kind of kept me out of trouble, kept me creative, kept me kind of like just brainstorming different kind of, let's say, universes that I could be excellent in, right? And it transitioned really well into kind of my own kind of real world. And then chess was a big part of my life. One of my younger sisters, the next oldest, Raven, she taught me chess. You know, I'm way better than her now, but I don't think I beat my sister when she taught me. It took me like 4 or 5 years to beat her for the first time, but once I did, it was kind of light switch. So I'm really grateful for her for teaching me the fundamentals, and chess is just such a beautiful game that I think translates to so many things in life, right? Whether it be your career decisions, academic choices, your personal relationships. I think a lot of things are random in the world, and then a lot of things aren't, right? It's all about strategy. And so, yeah, big lover of that game. I play it a lot still. My family, I have a pretty cool family. And I consider family both, you know, folks that are related to me blood-wise or not, right? It just depends on the relationship and the closeness that I have. So the upper right-hand corner is a pic taken the day of my wedding. And those are my groomsmen / groom women. These are my closest friends. This is kind of like my board of directors, if you will. I know a lot of folks sometimes talk about having like your crew of people that hold you accountable, demand excellence from you, are there for you unconditionally to love you and encourage you. This is my crew. These individuals have, many of them I've been friends for 10 or 15 years, have been profound in supporting me, and largely, after God, I believe, responsible for who I am and where I am today. So each of these folks, there's not much I wouldn't do for any of them. My wife, Bookie, is the lower left-hand corner. That's in Napa. She works in the wine industry, so we drink a lot of wine. The middle picture is my in-laws, her parents. They're Nigerian, beautiful, amazing people, super witty. The middle picture at the top is my godson, Effie. So the son of this guy here, Tyler. So I'm his godson. They live in South Carolina, and he's adorable, great kid. And then some of my siblings are here in the right-hand side. So the youngest one is my niece, Jade. She is a lot, but fun to hang out with, has an opinion on everything. And then the lower right-hand corner is two friends that work at Google that I'm really close with. And we've traveled the world together. We've done the Machu Picchu hike. We have Mount Kilimanjaro when the borders open up soon. So they're just like they're also my CrossFit crew. We do a lot of CrossFit. So love these guys as well. my career journey. You know, I went to Howard University. So I went to graduated from high school in Sacramento. I've been to many high schools, but the one that I ended up graduating was in Sacramento, and my GPA wasn't great. I think if I recall, I had like well, it depends on what you consider great. I think it was like 3.1. And I had actually applied to join the military. No shade against joining the military. I think for the right person, it's a great option. But for me, that was kind of like my goal. But I ended up applying to Howard University just because one of my teachers had strongly suggested it, and I actually got in. And so I ended up going to Howard, and you know, initially studying psychology, but actually due to kind of conversations like Ziba was highlighting as far as the kind of opportunity with studying STEAM and kind of focusing on software engineering in particular, I ended up changing my major to computer science. And so that was really cool. Became a software engineer, a computer programmer. I ended up working at an investment bank, Goldman Sachs, when I graduated in New York for 5 years, which is like a wild experience. I don't know if you all have ever seen American Psycho, but basically that's what it was, minus the murdering. And after that, after a lot of trial, failure, and finally success, I was able to join Google as a software engineer. And that was like a life-defining moment, because it was kind of a goal of mine that I've had for a long time, and didn't think I would ever hit it, but I was able to. Then I kind of got lucky again and co-founded my own kind of startup or company that had the passion of helping tech companies create apprenticeships, which is like another kind of path for folks who maybe graduated from high school, or maybe they dropped out of college, but they have the technical skill to be able to serve as work as a software engineer. So I partner with like Google and Pandora and Twitch and many other companies to help them build like a on-ramp for folks like that into the engineering industry. So I was a CTO at that company. We built a product and had a couple deals. It's still up and running. It's a pretty successful startup. But due to personal reasons, I ended up mostly being married. I decided to kind of like leave that startup in good hands and join Netflix. And that's, you know, I started as a manager, and then I was promoted to engineering director. And I lead the web UI team, which is the team that builds Netflix.com, or a portion of it, the experience that you have when you log in. There's a different team that is in charge of the experience that folks that are not members yet, that they see to get them excited about subscribing. Who knows what's next? Right. I'm having a lot of fun at Netflix, and I'm learning a lot, growing a lot. They've been outstanding in supporting me. I really couldn't ask for much. And in many ways, I feel pretty loyal to the company in the extent to which they poured into me. So yeah, we'll see what's next. So, my job at Netflix, I think these images kind of showcase kind of my day to day. My first responsibility is being a strong, kind of like calm, stable, kind of pole that my team can depend on when things get gnarly, because Netflix is one of many streaming companies. And there's, you may have heard of like the streaming war, HBO, Hulu, et cetera, Apple Plus, they all have great content. So we're trying our best to make sure that our service has the most compelling stories. I focus a lot on, I have the cheerleading thing there because I focus a lot on just encouraging the engineers that I have the privilege of leading. So the software engineers that actually build the website that I manage, really just being encouragement to them, setting them up for success, giving them the information they need to make great technical decisions. And I try to, going back to chess, I try to be really strategic when I'm doing that, so that they're set up for success, not only for today, but also for tomorrow. And then, just kind of guiding them, not that they need a bunch of hand holding because these are really senior people, but just making sure that, we follow the what's called the software development lifecycle. So basically the process that we follow in order to like do software engineering and build cool websites like Netflix.com. So, these are some of the humble things that I've learned. If you don't take anything else from this presentation, I would love to just share this with you all, and, take it with a grain of salt because we're all different. I'm a big Office fan. I don't know if you all are, that is kind of an older show, so you may not know about it, but I love it. It's great. It's no longer streaming on Netflix, unfortunately, but you can find it. I won't say the service that has the rights for it currently. But, Michael Scott quoting Wayne Gretzky, if you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I'm a big believer in that. Shoot your shot, whether it be, a class project, whether it be, an opportunity, whether it be literally you're playing on a sport team and it's 3 seconds left and, you have the ball, whether it be a relationship, someone that you're interested in, romantically, but maybe you're kind of scared or intimidated, whether it be a career opportunity, like I shoot shots. And, whether that be, the woman I'm with now, who I'm blessed to be married to, or the career that I have, a big part of it is because I was just okay failing. Right. And I think that's okay. And I would encourage you all to consider that for yourself. I'm also really passionate about helping others. By helping others, we help ourselves. That's one of the reasons why I'm on the call now, right? Is humbly, whatever I can do to help you all, and as you're in school and trying to figure out what you want to be, as you continue growing, I just want to be whatever help I can, because I've learned that I also selfishly get so much from pouring into others and giving. I get perspective from you all. I get learnings, epiphanies, and just a general good feeling. And also I get to pay back what people did for me, because not too long ago, I was sitting in the very chairs that you are now, and there was someone on the screen or in the room giving me pro tips. So I'm just grateful for them. I've learned the value of staying low. And that really just means to remain humble. I know in our society, there's a lot of people that, society lifts up for being very arrogant, and very loud and overly confident. And, while maybe that has its place, for me personally, I found value in being in humility. And that doesn't mean that you undervalue yourself or that you let people kind of walk all over you. It just means that you are able to consider others before yourself. You're able to kind of second, guess in a healthy way what your immediate thought is and consider someone else's thought. I've just found that I learn more when I have that posture. And I also avoid situations where I put my foot in my mouth and I inadvertently offend someone or miss out on an opportunity. Love yourself enough to define a vision. So for each of you in that room right now, care enough about yourself, take yourself seriously enough to actually have an opinion on who you want to be and where you want to go. Right. And that does require love. It does require you to take yourself seriously, because a lot of people, unfortunately, kind of get lost in the sauce, and all that the world kind of puts in their face, and they don't do that. So I would just really encourage you to take some time, talk to your parents, talk to your friends, grandparents, whoever, to try to define who do you want to be, right? And don't let anyone else tell you can't be that person once you figure that out. Because I've had many people tell me that I wouldn't be the person I am to be able to speak to you. I've had family members tell me that, unfortunately. So, just keep that in mind. Put your mask on first. Because I like to help other people, I learned early in my life that I would just exhaust all my resources, help a bunch of people. And then when I got home, I was like, oh, wait, I don't have enough to even take care of myself. And as I matured, I realized, well, the more I take care of myself strategically, actually, in the long run, the more people I can help and the larger degree I can help them. That was a big part of why I went to college, right? A big part of me didn't want to leave my mom, supporting my 4 siblings by herself, and I was working and helping to pay the bills. But I realized in the long run, if I get a degree, get this 2x job we're talking about, there's so much more I could do for my mom, you know, or you know, my siblings. And that is definitely true. Like the extent to which I can love and help them now is night and day for what I would have been able to do had I maybe stayed at Albertsons and by now been, you know, the store manager or something. I don't know, right? So no shade to store managers at Albertsons, just saying. And so just something to consider. And then finally, no excuses. So, you know, we all have, if we want to, great opportunities to make excuses. And some of these reasons are so difficult and tough that like, it's fair for you to say, hey, I didn't go to college because of this, or I didn't graduate from high school because of that. And it's like, sure, that's a great excuse. But I would encourage you to try to default to nothing being big enough for it to be an excuse to block you from who you want to be, right? If it happens to make it hard, or if it does end up blocking you, sometimes in life that does happen. But people that have a no excuse mentality, typically it doesn't happen to them. That's been my experience. Like they will just pound through brick walls. And I've seen it in my own life and other people's life and other young people's life. And it's kind of incredible. So I would just consider that. So now a demo, it's less of a demo and it's more of trying to talk about how Netflix as a user interface, when we try to like bring joy to people through them discovering great content, like how that works, right? And how we mix in a little art, a little science, a little engineering, a little math all together in one kind of like career in one way, so that you all, if you go to netflix.com, you have this amazing experience. And so one of the things that really differentiates us from some of our competitors, like if you were to go to hulu.com or peacock.com or whatever, is the fact that we put in a lot of effort, again, whether it be art. So like we have designers that create these beautiful animations and kind of like UIs, user interfaces, or whether it be like data scientists who like think about training, like, you know, software that can predict what you may be interested in, or whether it be software engineers, like the folks that I get to manage who actually build these experiences. We put in a lot of effort to try to understand, as you're using Netflix, like, what do you like? Like if you were to thumbs down a movie, that tells us something. That means you don't like that movie. And it means you may not like the actor or actress. It may mean you don't like the genre. Maybe you just don't like this specific title, but that tells us in the future, like, what should we recommend, right? If you remove something from your, if you stop watching something, right? Remove from continue watching, that tells us something, right? And just depending on how deep you scroll in the website, how whether it be vertically or horizontally, what you click or don't click, what you hover over or don't hover over, all these are signals that we can create software to listen to then say the next time you visit netflix.com, we have a better prediction of probably what you want to see. And not only like the titles we recommend, but like how we present those titles. Maybe you like big images or small images. Maybe you like a bunch of long, like descriptions in text form to tell you what the movie's about before you watch it. Maybe you don't like that at all and you like badges. Maybe you like circles or squares. Like all these things we can create software to try to predict so that you have like the most optimal experience. And so ultimately what we want to get to, sorry, Anovi, I was a little forward and just found an image of you, I think, on LinkedIn somewhere. Like ultimately what this results in is, you know, Anovi's Netflix experience, right? What she might be interested in, which I'm not saying this is her experience, may be totally different than the Netflix, you know, experience that is presented for me. I'm a big horror movie fan, right? So maybe it makes sense that Dracula is right there. And so what we want is every single person to have this like very different personalized experience so that they're able to find content that brings them joy very quickly, right? Because the longer you like search for things, eventually like, I don't really even want to watch Netflix anymore. I'm going to go to TikTok, or I'm going to kind of just, now I'm frustrated. I'm in a bad mood because like I had a stressful day and I wasn't able to find something to like, you know, make me feel better. And so this is literally what my organization does, and what I have the privilege of kind of like leading managers and engineers to try to figure out and to build on behalf of, you know, last I checked, over 200 million people all over the globe, right? And this is something I never really knew I'd be able to do. Like, you know, maybe when I was as young as you all in this chair, but because I kept setting visions for myself, like every 5 years, like, okay, who do I want to be? What can I do? Let me shoot my shot. This is where I am thus far. And I'm going to continue doing that. Right. And maybe in 2 years, I can have another chat with you all and we can see what happens. Cause I would love to kind of hear where you are in life based off of today, the vision that you set for yourself. Again, another Office reference. So sorry if you've never heard of the show, but I love it. Thank you all. I know I talked a lot, so hopefully some of it was useful.
Thank you so much, Howard, for sharing your journey with us. We will now transition to the question and answer period. Ask a question, win a prize. To help get the ball rolling, we have more Amazon gift cards to give away while supplies last. If you have any questions, you can physically raise your hand and we are watching the cameras so we can see and call on you. Or you can type the word question in the chat and we will call on you. Or if you prefer, feel free to type the full question into the chat box. For our panelists, we have the STG workshop interns and our Netflix guest speaker who you are already a bit familiar with. Now we can start the Q&A panel. Okay, we have a question from Ty Oliveira. Do you see yourself working on your job for much longer? Do you think there is still space in your work for growth?
Whew. You're really showing up in that Howard Tell Me Anything, you know? And I did say I was going to be honest. When you say my job, I'm assuming it could mean different things. It could mean, are you going to stay at Netflix? Or it could mean, do you want to continue being an engineering leader, or do you want to change industries and professions and be a school teacher? Or so maybe I'll answer both. Right now, like if I won $40 million tomorrow, I probably would quit my job and be an AP computer science teacher at a high school. That's I don't know if you could tell by my kind of like dorky, maybe charismatic personality, but I think teachers are superheroes. I think like I went to college because of an amazing AP world history high school teacher. He was probably the first person in my life, unfortunately, to tell me, actually, that's not true. My grandmother told me this often, this as well, but one of the main people in my life to tell me I was smart enough to go to college. And I'll give him a shout out. His name's Richard Maurer. He lives in the Sacramento area. I should buy this guy a car. I really do owe that to him because I probably wouldn't have gone to college if it wasn't for his continued support, given some of the tough times I was going through in life. So, that's what I would do. But practically speaking, not winning the $30 million, I think that I've learned a lot at Netflix. I continue to be challenged there. But I play chess. And so I'm never going to be the kind of person to kind of just like put my head down and kind of just do the same thing just for the hell of it. It's only going to be if it continues to make sense, given all the other options out there in the market. There's other great companies, including Netflix, that have challenging, awesome, rewarding engineering leadership roles. And so, of course, there's going to be a time when eventually I take on the next thing, right? Whether that's today or tomorrow. Depends on the opportunities that hit my LinkedIn and inbox, right? So next time I catch up with you all, it's totally possible I'm at a different company.
Another question we have from Mirja Steffens. If you could go back, would you choose the same path for yourself?
I study psychology initially, and I actually wanted to be a criminal psychologist. I'd applied for an internship with the FBI, and surprise, didn't get it when I was a freshman. which again was me shooting my shot because it's kind of ridiculous, the likelihood of me getting that internship, but I said, why not? You know, other than that kind of like curiosity of, oh, I wonder if I would have continued studying psychology, if I would have then gotten into a 5-year PhD program, and maybe I could be working for the CIA or something like that. That is something that I wonder, because I still love psychology and still read about, you know, the fundamentals and the kind of like founding fathers of the 5 disciplines. At the end of the day, I'm extremely happy with my career now and what I get to do every day. And especially when I consider, I'm a very extrinsically motivated person. So when I consider, you know, the kind of compensation associated with my career decision, it definitely helps when you think about loving family members, friends, when you think about just like, you know, how tough it can be in the world and how, you know, privilege, while I wish it was more equitably distributed, is a pretty awesome thing. Yeah, that would probably be my answer to that.
Thank you. Do we have any questions in person, students? Now is the time you can ask. Okay, we do have a question in person. We will wait until NOV goes to the student.
Go ahead. How much money and income are we, do you get for like working as a technology expert, I guess? Oh, go ahead.
I think the question is, how much money do you get as a technology pathway, as you're working in technology pathway, I guess?
I'm trying to think of a fun way to answer that question. How could I answer that question in a fun way? Bear with me.
That's fine, we have time.
This varies. It's definitely not, you know, a consistent thing, right? It depends on so many factors. And, you know, by the time you get my age, inflation will continue to change this answer. I will share that I ballpark make about 25 Teslas a year. Let's say that. I was trying to find a way of putting this in terms of Pokemon cards, but I just couldn't figure that out. So yeah, that's what I'll say. So if you're that curious, do some Googling, some math, maybe, you know, throw the numbers together. You know, overall, I think that 2x multiplier could be so much higher depending on your career, so much higher. It's ridiculous. And it really depends on how early you define that vision for yourself and how stubborn you are in working towards making that a reality, right? Because the people, the folks that I've seen figure out who they are and what they want early and young, they have so much more time privilege to work towards that goal. And if you wait, the older you get, the more complicated life gets, by the way, right? Like even if you don't get married or have kids, it just, I don't know, you just wake up one day and you're 30 and you're like, what the hell happened? And so like, if you can figure this out in your teens, like I'm jealous of you, right? Like I really am, because there's literally no limit to what you could do. You can be an astronaut if you want to. You can send me a selfie from the moon. Like that's a thing that you could do if that's a goal, and you could get it done. And money is great and it is a driver for those of us that are extrinsically motivated like myself. But, I think ultimately also in addition to money, you want to make sure that you really have a passion for it, right? Because that's what you'll need to lean on when you could get to a point where like the money isn't enough anymore. Like there's many ways to make money these days. If you want to be, you could make money by being an influencer on Instagram. Now, I don't want that lifestyle of constantly having to carry a phone around and like wear certain kind of clothes and Photoshop things, but like that you could do that if you want to. But then it's like, well, what do you have a passion for, right? Sorry, long-winded answer to your simple question.
No, we loved it. Thank you. Do we have another question? Seems like it always going.
Okay. Go ahead.
Which STEAM job makes the most money?
Again, like any one of those acronyms. So it's science, technology, engineering, art, math. Is that?
Yes.
I could pick a profession in each of those of folks that make a ton of money. They're really like, you might be, if you go off stereotypes, you might say, oh, maybe art doesn't make as much money as the rest of them, right? Maybe that's like a myth or a stigma or whatever compared to the other acronym. That's like so not true, right? I have a Charmander, a life-size Charmander here. I'll show it to you. It's kind of heavy, it's quartz, so bear with me. It's made by this artist named Daniel Arsham, who was a classically trained painter. He went to art school in New York. And I paid a pretty penny for this, a pretty penny. And it's because I really like Pokemon and I really like what this artist does. And he makes probably multiples more money than I do. Not probably, I know this for a fact, he has to, right? More than I do. And he's an artist. He paints and he creates sculptures that then people like me will pay absurd amounts of money to have in our little office. And God bless him, that's awesome, because he has a talent that there's a demand for, right? And so I think like there really is no like easy answer to that question. It really depends on like the amount of money you make is like picking one of these professions, but then the multiplier on that is like how passionate you are and being great at that thing, right? It's a little bit more, obviously there's other complexities associated with that, but like that's at the end of the day, the gist of it, I think.
Thank you. Do you have another question, Kira? Seems like Inoue on her way.
Who's your favorite Pokemon character?
Okay, repeat it one more time.
Who's your favorite Pokemon character?
Oh man, it's tough. Character, you mean Pokemon or actual human?
Pokemon. Pikachu, Charmander.
Oh, the Pokemon, okay. The actual Pokemon. I would probably say from the Kanto region, the original 151, probably Magmar. I was a big Magmar fan. He did, well, they're not gendered, but Magmar doesn't get the love that it deserves. I really feel like it's an unsung hero. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Charizard as well. If it's a character though, I really like Brock, the Pure City gym leader, the rock type trainer. I think he's pretty cool.
Okay, do we have another question?
All right. Hi, my name's Camilo, and I wanted to. Oh, I'm sorry.
You forgot it again?
No, my question was, like throughout all your experience, through Steam and Netflix, like what was your favorite part about it?
Can you repeat it one more time?
All right. Just,
I think I understood the question. Through all your experiences in Steam and or Netflix, what was your favorite part?
Mhm.
my question was like through your experience, like through Steam and Netflix, like what was your favorite part of doing it throughout all your experience?
At specifically during my time at Netflix, or just in my career in general in Steam?
Yeah, in both.
In both,
Okay.
correct.
In general, it would be actually my time at Google. I partnered with senior leadership there to do this program. You may not have heard of it. It's called Howard West, and it was like this incredible kind of collaboration between a tech company and a HBCU, where 25 computer science students were able to do a study abroad kind of summer school living on Google's campus. So we found apartments nearby, and they came to class every day, and they got credits for the computer science courses that were offered on Google's campus that were towards their degree. And each class was co-instructed by a Google engineer and a PhD Howard University professor. So the professors also lived in the Bay, around in the Bay Area. And it was kind of profound because all of this was sponsored and scholarship. And the students kind of got first world exposure to like what it's like to work at arguably the software engineering company in the world. And, these folks were from the African diaspora, from the continent of Africa, as well as Black Americans. And so it was just like probably one of the proudest things I've ever been associated with, and taught me a lot about leadership and mentorship, and kind of, I learned a lot of things. But that would probably be the height of kind of like one of the milestones in my career. And I would say at Netflix, I think it's some of all the cool stuff that I've done. Probably one of the days that I'm the happiest and I'm smiling inside of my heart is when I see engineers that I've been able to mentor or manage directly grow. Like if they get promoted, or if their compensation jumps up significantly, or if they just have this like huge cross organization or company impact. If I'm like associated with that in some big or small way, it just makes me extremely happy. Because managers often, when you're a manager, you're typically not coding. So you don't get that dopamine hit of like, oh, I built something, it's amazing, people are using it, like software engineers do. Your impact or happy days are very far and few in between. And you have to be very patient. Like you'll plant a seed and water it. You may not see the thing grow for a year, but that day when that plant grows, it's incredible. You're like, this is why I knew this engineer was going to be amazing. And look, they did this amazing thing, and kudos for them. But like, I'm glad that I was able to like set them up for success. So that's happened on very high levels, probably like 4 or 5 times, where I've seen like an engineer get promoted to manager, or like launch some Netflix feature that like has hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue impact. And it just feels really good. And I don't need the cookie. And also, you often don't get a pat on the back. You don't get sometimes the engineer will thank you, but like nobody knows what you've done. So it's very selfless work, but just you yourself, you did it. Like that's all that matters. It just feels good.
Now we have another question ready for you. And Inovi is going right now.
My name is Sam, and what's your favorite part about teaching STEAM?
About what? Sorry.
I said, my name is Sam, and what's your favorite part about teaching STEAM?
Oh, teaching STEAM. Well, I manage senior software engineers. I guess you could call me a teacher, kind of, in that I'm like giving feedback and coaching. So I'm, like the feedback that I give and the coaching is kind of teaching. But to be honest, to be frank, Sam, like many of the people I manage are they have IQs I'll probably never reach, right? Like a lot of these engineers, some of these engineers are older than I am and have been writing software longer than I've been alive. So like, so, you know, it's a very humbling position, because just because I'm the manager or the director doesn't mean I'm like necessarily the smartest person. It just means that my role is to be a servant to them so that they're set up to be as impactful as they can be, right? And a lot of times it does mean that I need to be humble and ask them to teach me. Like, hey, can you explain how the search architecture for Netflix.com works? Because you built it, I didn't. And I kind of need to understand that to understand like how large our team needs to be and whether I need to hire other great engineers like yourself over the next couple of quarters. And like, so, but to try to answer your question, when it comes to what I do teach, which is like, hey, maybe consider like using more inclusive language in this meeting, or like, hey, maybe consider like, you know, if you're in a back and forth technical design argument with someone, like, do you want to reach a solution or do you want to be right? Like, which is more important to you in that conversation? And here's some tactics to like maybe reach an end game goal without being like overly concerned about whether your way is the way that we choose, right? Like, these are the things that I kind of like, because I'm not like knee deep in the work, I can kind of have a bigger picture perspective on like all the moving pieces and different teams and orgs. Or I can say, hey, you're working on this thing. I just had a one-on-one with this other team that's working on the same thing. Y'all should talk, right? Instead of just building two of the same exact things, y'all should just build it once, and then all of Netflix can benefit from it. Then you can have more impact and make more money, right? So like, these are the things that I try to do. And it feels great. It feels really cool.
My name's Darius, and are you guys working on releasing TV shows and movies faster?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yes. Yes, that's actually one of our competitive advantages, is that Netflix has been a forerunner in building out studios globally and building out internal tools, websites, web applications, and kind of back-end platforms that can streamline the production of a show or a movie, right? So a lot of old school Hollywood is very slow, it's very analog, there's a lot of manual, like people are literally printing scripts on pieces of paper and giving it to actors and actresses and having them read off of it. Netflix, we have iPhone apps, iPad apps. We have things that are algorithmically automatically done, whether it be subs and dubs. So like subtitles, or like, you know, let's say a Korean film that is in, you know, Korean, but then we have like an English kind of speaking over it for other folks to understand. Like a lot of that stuff is done, you know, just machine learning. Like we don't have a human doing it manually, which is what many other companies are doing. So that helps us kind of like get things out the door faster and more efficiently. And I think probably the only positive thing or one of the small positive things of the pandemic and COVID is that it forced us to do that with technology, because we couldn't meet in person, right? So we had to figure out how to do these things at scale in an automated, faster, more efficient way.
Thank you. We do have one more question in person, and I know he's currently going.
By the way, I have time, so I'm game to answer as many questions as you all have. If you're game to stay, it's up to you.
Thank you, Howard. We would love to ask more questions now.
My name's Sinai, and can you join Steam at a young age and still make money?
What do you mean, like at a young age?
Like 13?
Like, oh, like a STEAM like job or
Yeah.
internship,
Yeah,
or
in STEAM.
just like a workshop in a sense, or?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it might be for Adrian, maybe.
I can answer that a little bit and then let Howard speak to that from his experience that yes, that you can definitely join at a young age through internships and volunteer opportunities out there in STEAM careers. And so part of what StarTech Global Academy does is match interested students with not only mentors, but those very same volunteer opportunities and internships that are out there. So if you're interested, during the exit survey, please leave your email and please state that you're interested, and we will get back to you and help you out because that's what we do.
The short answer is yes. I just Googled just kind of some young folks that are kind of well known and very popular. And you know, just to give a few examples, this isn't a diverse list, so I apologize. But you know, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey, all of these folks, though likely due to a ton of privilege that I didn't have growing up, and then maybe some of you don't have, created these multi-billion-dollar, like multi-generational disruptive and defining products and companies at very young ages. So like if you, and then also just in general, folks that are being very successful and making a lot of money and having huge global impact, they're only getting younger and younger. Like I'm already stale. There are people that are like probably 25 that could do my job today, right? And dare I say, I'm on the younger side, right? Even for my job. So like the fact that like every generation is just getting younger and smarter sooner. And so, yeah, it's kind of terrifying. And, you know, I think when you think about your impact and success, I think you definitely shouldn't have this blocker in your head like, oh, I need to wait till some magical number of an age until I do this thing. Because again, your success or you joining STEAM is really like connected to like your passion. Like what's your personal vision timeline, right? Like how quickly do you want to hit some milestone? That's how young you can be when it happens. It doesn't need to be limited based off of like, you know, best practices or what you see other people doing. Like that's up to you.
Thank you. We do have another question.
Are you able to like get a job at STEAM at like a young age?
We just said that one. You have another one? Let me come back to you.
Like, what's like the minimum?
The minimum age?
Of kind of like having a career in STEAM.
Yes.
Again, here's an article that I'll put in the chat, and sorry for those that are not on the call, but it's Samaria Metas. It's a 10-year-old young girl who was a coder, and she's grabbing the attention of Google, you know, Microsoft, and Michelle Obama. Like I think if you need kind of like an instance of someone who's really young and kind of breaking expectations or narratives, it's you can just Google and find those examples. So there is no like minimal age, right? Like one of my best friends, Robert Person, who's he's been a senior software engineer at Microsoft and now Lyft. I mean, he started programming when he was like 9, and it's because his mom worked at a bank and she brought home like an Apple computer, and he would take it apart and also code video games on it. And, you know, he's Black and grew up in Philly, and, you know, I consider him a genius, like, and I don't throw that term around loosely. So I really think it just depends on you. There's no minimal age.
Yeah, I agree. I have a 10-year-old that I have worked with that has been designing his own logos and on digital apps and putting together what he's going to make a digital store. And so you really can start exploring your interests at any age, As soon as you're ready to find a passion and explore it, you can do it.
Thank you, Adrian and Howard. Do we have another question? If you're virtual, again, you can type your question in the chat or you can raise your hand. If you're in person, you can raise your hand and our in-person lead will come to you.
Why did you want this job?
Yeah, why did you choose to?
Yeah, why did you choose to get this job?
All right.
This specific job, that's a cool question. So, you know, because I was at a startup and it was fun. It was really hard, but you know, I think I got married and you know, I started, you know, I took on new bills and new financial demands. I'll say that, and you know, I did my research, kind of like what Ziba kind of and others did for you and share, where you kind of realize, you kind of figure out like, okay, what companies and what roles pay about what, you know, how much money and how does that map to my personal vision and needs, et cetera. But why Netflix in particular? I actually really fell in love with Netflix when they released this documentary called 13, which is about the 13th Amendment. And a lot of it was focused on kind of this epiphany that the country is having, racial epiphany, racial justice or injustice around the imprisonment of the over representation of Black men in prison, or Black people really in general. And I felt that when that documentary was released, it was done at such a critical moment for the country and a lot of the kind of social economic conversations we were having, social political conversations, that I think I was at Google when it was released, and I was like, wow, like that's really impressive to me that Netflix would do that. And I think ever since then, I was kind of like, I want to work there one day. And actually, when I had this epiphany, it was probably like 4 years before I actually ended up working there. And who knows how lucky I was in that actually like working out. But I think it's cool to just say out loud a vision that you have, like, I want to work at Netflix. And then what do you know? 4 years later, I work at Netflix, you know. I very, you know, easily could not if I didn't kind of set that as like a seed planted in my head. So I just kind of look up to Netflix as at company wide as like a very provocative company that tries to challenge the status quo with its content. And sometimes that content can go viral and can cause a lot of critical discussion. And I won't name any specific titles. You probably could do a Google search and figure that out. But regardless of where you are on the political or equity, inclusion, you know, social spectrum, I just like conversation. I like debate. I think what I will say on recorded is I wish, you know, and I say this as like, you know, a relatively Elizabeth Warren flaming liberal. I wish that like people would meet in the middle and talk more and like talk to each other for like to understand, not talk at each other. Like I wish that was a thing. And I think that's something that Netflix accomplishes in this very clever way by like creating some content, recommending it, and you may not normally probably have watched it. Like it gets you out of your echo chamber and you're able to empathize with the character, and that might change your view on abortion, or it might change your view on like systemic racism. It might change your view on, white privilege, right? Like it might change your view on gun control, right? Like regardless if you're for or against any of those things, you could watch a Netflix story and it might totally change your view. Or if it doesn't, at least that you're in this camp and you've actually entertained the other camp. So you're there and you're like confident about you're there. And you're not just there because you're in an echo chamber your whole life and no one's ever told you otherwise, right? So that's probably a long-winded answer as to why Netflix in particular, I'm passionate to work there. That was a good question. All these are great questions.
Do we have another question? No, we care.
I think I've tired everyone out.
No more questions. It seems like. What do you least like about your job and why?
That's a cool question. One, as an engineering director, which is really focused on strategy and leadership, I don't get to code really anymore. I could prioritize time for coding in my personal life, but I just don't. I mean, there's only 24 hours in a day. And I do miss software engineering. So for those who do become software engineers typically first and then managers and senior leadership, just realize that there are trade-offs. And I haven't written a line of code since the summer of 2019. Like that means that there are things that I used to just be like, I could just create a website from scratch that was very impressive and did a lot of things. And now it would probably take me a few months don't get me wrong. It's like riding a bike. I haven't totally forgot it. Like, object-oriented languages are more or less the same. It's just the sugar syntax that changes, whatever the new cool, sexy language is that all kids are, crazed about. But it would take me a few months to ramp back up. And that's humbling. Again, when I manage as engineers, I could just like, at any given time, code circles around me. I would say the other thing that is difficult about my job is, as you see, I'm a very transparent person. Lying was never a issue that I had when I was growing up with my parents or family members. I just like to tell the truth. I don't like it gives me anxiety to lie. And turns out when you're a senior leader, you get told a lot of very sensitive, critical context and information and things that's going to happen before it happens. And it would be irresponsible or poor judgment of me to like then just like yell to the heavens, like, hey, like this is going to happen, or hey, like these folks are going to have to move over here, or this, and a lot of times I have to sit on stuff and I have to kind of like pretend I don't know. And in general at Netflix, we are transparent. So we bias towards sharing everything. But to be frank, there's just some times where if I were to share things too early, it could actually cause more harm than good, right? It could put people in a state of anxiety and stress and fear when it may not even be warranted. Maybe we don't want to share it yet because we're still trying to figure out, cross our T's and dot our I's. And once we get all the context prepared and share it, you won't have any worries. So that's really tough, is just like having someone ask you a question like, hey, do you know more about this? And I won't lie. I'll just say, if I do, it's like, I have a general understanding, but I think it'll be of higher value if you give me a little bit more time and learn a little bit more, right? Like I have to be kind of like smooth with how I not do something that my personality really very much wants me to do.
Thank you so much, Howard, for answering our questions. Now we can move on to our mentor program and the exit survey. Mentors can not only advise you on your education and career pathways, but they can also be job references and write letters of recommendation. Interested in mentors? Don't miss out. Let us know in the survey and we will have your mentor reach out to you via email. I will paste the link into the chat box for our virtual students. The link is sensitive, so must be lowercase. So we promised you $25 Amazon gift cards after completing the workshop. To get the $25 and also get matched with mentors, please use the link to take the exit survey. Survey will only take few minutes. Make sure to enter the link all lowercases. For in-person, Inovi and Kiara will be able to help you. Once you see the confirmation screen on the survey, then you're done. You can go ahead and exit the meeting. Don't forget to check out steamdiscoveryproject.org for more workshops every Wednesday through May 25th. The survey link is also posted there. And finally, see our online resource guide. Thank you so much for coming. Hope you all have a wonderful evening.